Hello everyone, welcome to the first lesson of this course. Now, you will enjoy this course a lot because we're going to talk about the 3D layers on After Effects, which is a very fun subject on this amazing software. So, After Effects doesn't actually have a 3D layer. If you go to Layer, New, you won't see a 3D layer option here. But you can turn a regular layer into 3D. So, I'm going to take this nice illustration that you can find on Freepik. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And now, right now, this illustration, this file is completely flat, right? It moves just on the X and the Y axis. The X is the horizontal axis and the Y is the vertical axis. Right now, it moves like this. If you go to the position settings, you have the X axis and the Y axis, right? So right now we have two dimensions only. Now if I want to make this layer 3D, all I have to do is to go to this section here. You can see all these icons and we have the 3D layer icon here. If we select this layer, this icon, now this layer is 3D. Of course, it may not be what you were hoping for. Maybe you thought that this would come to 3D actually, but it's not how it works on After Effects. If you wanted an actual 3D object, of course you would have to go to another software like 3D Max or Cinema 4D. So you can work with 3D here on After Effects, but working with some plugins. But right now, we can work in a 3D space for every layer. So you can see that now this layer has the three axes here. Now we don't have only the y-axis and the x-axis, but we have another one here, which is this blue arrow, and that is the z-axis, which is of course the depth. You can see that we now have a green arrow representing the y-axis, the vertical axis. We have a red arrow representing the x-axis or the horizontal axis, and you can see that every time I hover over these arrows, the cursor changes to black, and now it's shown the letter of the axis. Here is the y and the x. Now let me turn this off for a moment. Now it's back again to 2D, and right now if I hit the rotation, you can see that I can move only in one direction of the rotation, right? I'm moving on the rotation on the y-axis. But if I make this layer 3D, now I have a bunch of other options here on the rotation part. Let's open this, and you can see that we still have the transform, and we have the material options that we're going to see later when we talk about the lights. We have the transform options, and we have the same anchor point, the position, the scale, and opacity, but the rotation, now we don't have just one rotation properties, but we have orientation and rotation for each one of the axes. We can rotate this layer into the x-axis or the y or the z-axis. If I rotate on the x-axis, it will rotate like this because it's rotating attached to this axis, on this axis. And you can see how you can see other parts of the layer now. Now this layer is what we call a 3D layer. If I move this on the y-axis, it moves like this, and on the z-axis it goes like this. Now of course you can do it with the rotation tool also. We can rotate this layer as we want. Right now I'm moving through all the axes, but if I take a rotation tool and press directly on one of these axes, I will rotate it on that axis only. For example, If I press on the x-axis with the rotation tool, I will rotate it on the x-axis only. Now you can see that, let me get far away. You can see that if we rotate this object and we place it here, all we get is a flat vector. You can see the back of the layer, but it's not really 3D. I mean, it's 3D according to the view, but it doesn't have any depth. The layer doesn't have any depth. Later I will teach you how to create some bevels to the object so that they look actually 3D, but that will be on another lesson of this section. Right now you can see that this object is actually flat. Now what happens if I have two layers on 3D? Let me bring another illustration. Let me get this one here and place another illustration, this girl. Alright, you can see that this one is 3D and this one is not 3D yet because we have to click here. Now this one is 3D, so the 3D works independently for each layer. For example, this one can have this rotation, while this one can have this rotation. Now they are both 3D, but they are not working on the same space. They are independent on the rotation. Now that's for the rotation part. Now with the position, let's open the position for this boy or for the girl instead. I'm going to rotate her back to the front like this, and now if I hit the position, you can see that on the position we now have three options too, as well as the rotation. On the position we have the x-axis, where we can move the position on this axis, the red axis. We have the y-axis, and now we have the z-axis here on the position. So if I increase the position of this axis, of course she will be farther away because I'm placing them beyond and into the space. Think of it as a 3D room, and so if I increase this, she will be deeper into this range, into this 3D room. If I bring her closer, for example, let me set this a lot closer, like 100, and if I bring this, if I decrease this position, she will come closer because she is now on a different position on the z-axis. And z-axis, of course, is the depth, is what gives the three-dimensional feeling. So right now she's not bigger, she has the same size. If you go to the scale, you can see that she has the same size. Let me open this. You can see that if I get her closer, she isn't changing her size. She is just going to a different position on this 3D space. Now, this doesn't only works for vector files, of course. This works for shape layers. I'm going to create a shape layer. I will use a star. Let me change the fill and I can make this shape 3D, and start playing with the rotation. And I can also do the same with an image. Let me bring this image here. I will scale it down. We have this nice image that you can find on Freepik too. I will change the composition to white. Alright, I have this guy's image, and I can make him 3D. You can see that it now has the 3 axes. So if I rotate him on the Y axis, you can see that he is moving into the 3D space too. And as you can see, all these can be animated too. All the settings can be animated just like a regular layer. For example, if I create a stopwatch here, I'm going to create a keyframe and go a little further, and I will change this rotation, and then I will change the rotation again. Now if I hit play, I can see it like this. So I can take him and look to the top, and I'm going to repeat these keyframes. Let's hit play, and that looks good. So you can see that this layer is not actual 3D because it doesn't have any depth here. He's still a flat person, but the layer itself is rotating in 3 dimensions. And finally, of course, you can do the same for a video. I'm going to place this footage here. This is a footage of some planes flying, and right now it's just a regular layer, but if I hit the 3D layer, now I can change this rotation too. I'm going to rotate it in the Y axis and a little on the X axis like this, and the video will play normally. The video didn't change anything, it's just the same video, but right now the layer where the video is 3D. So what happens if I have these 2 layers and I want some kind of animation where I go closer and then I go farther away, and then I rotate and look at how they look on the side or anything? How do I do that? I can do it just by animating the rotation here. I would need to use some camera, and we will see about the cameras on the next lesson.